Let's get into some science, because I don't know much about it, and I don't do too many science stories. North Carolina didn't like science on sea levels and sea level related research, so they passed a law against it. They're like, yeah, no, you know what? Sea level reporting is now against the law in our state. I got to get to the bottom of this. When North Carolina got bad news about what its coast could look like thanks to climate change, it chose to completely ignore the data. The state now is in the path of Hurricane Florence, and they've reacted to a prediction by its Coastal Resources Commission that sea levels could rise by 39 inches over the next century by passing a law that banned policies based on such forecasts. The legislation drew ridicule, including a mocking segment by comedian Stephen Colbert, who said, "If your science gives you a result you don't like, pass a law saying the result is illegal. Problem solved." I don't watch Colbert, but that's really smart. North Carolina has a long, low-lying coastline and is considered one of the U.S. areas most vulnerable to rising sea levels. But dire predictions alarmed coastal developers and their allies, who said they do not believe the rise in sea level would be as bad as the worst models predicted, and said such forecasts could unnecessarily hurt property values and drive up insurance costs. As a result, the state's official policy, rather than adapting to the worst potential effects of climate change, their policy has been to assume it simply won't be that bad. Instead of forecasts, it has mandated predictions based on historical data on sea level rise. Well, how far back is your history going to go with your historical data, quote unquote? Because if you go back 10,000 years, the coastlines after the breakup of the last ice age rose over 300 feet on a global level. Think about that, 300 feet. The amount of land that was inundated by coastlines at the melting of the last glaciation was the equivalent of like the entire country of China, which is millions of square miles. That was like the amount of coastline that was inundated. So how far back in history do you want to go? Okay, state of North Carolina. 10,000 years ago isn't that far. And we have the data already. We know what happened. Obviously, we don't have that much glaciation on this planet at the moment. So when the glaciers do subside a little bit, as they clearly are going to, they are as we speak, the oceans will rise. Not 300 feet globally, but something probably around, let's guess conservatively and say 50 feet. That's still more than, that's still more than the amount that they've been told that they're denying. And why hold back this information on, it's like, well, it's going to bring down property values. Yeah, okay, sure. Who's hurting there? Developers and whatnot, the people that already have $1 billion anyway. So screw you, I don't care. I'm looking out for the people that may want to buy a home on the coastline. Like, those people should be protected. Screw you and your billions. You'll just buy property somewhere else because you're loaded. What do I give a shit? Insurance companies. Like, I'm supposed to care about insurance companies. But what about the insurance companies? Ever since I've been alive, insurance companies have been screwing me. Okay, so I'm not very sympathetic to the cares of insurance companies either. What I am sympathetic for is people that may be duped into buying coastline property. Someplace they want to raise a family. In an area that may, within the next 50 years, be flooded. That's important to me. That should be important to all of us. And because the state of North Carolina obviously is in the pockets of corporations and land developers and insurance companies, like most politicians, they're not going to admit this, and they're not going to protect the citizens, because the last thing politicians are going to do is protect the interests of the common people. Hell no! They're too busy, bowing at the altar of the corporations and the insurance companies and, the 1%. I'm sorry, I went off on my little soapbox there, but screw it, man. It's if not completely true, what I'm saying, it's true enough. Oh, man. So North Carolina, listen, if you guys are looking to buy North Carolina coastline land, Georgia coastline, Florida, be aware that, know your history, first of all. Know what happened in the last deglaciation, and then, make a decision based accordingly on that data. And also take into consideration the data that's coming out now by geological services and stuff like that, who are telling people the deglaciation that's going on now, and what sort of numbers as far as sea level rise comes out of that. So I would consider these things before deciding to live on the, not deciding to live temporarily, but to buy something long term. Yeah, I would look into that. And that's just my advice to you, and it's pretty free, this advice. I don't know if it's the best advice, but it's pretty damn good advice. Yeah, I'm a nerd sometimes. and I think I know what I'm talking about, but I could be wrong. And you call me and express your view. I mean, some people are denying climate change. They're denying that the glaciers are melting. They're denying all these things. And if you are in that party, feel free to call Weird AF News and express that. 646-450-2012.